Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me, and it's been a little while, Matt Mallory of Meet the Pressers. Matt, there's been things happening with Matt, there's been things happening with me. It doesn't take too many times when he's only on every other week for us to really not become very acquainted with each other. But Matt, welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me, sir. Appreciate it.
Want to mention as we get going, everybody, if you're watching, no matter where you're watching, please like and share on the video that you are watching. We've been growing, but I'd love to grow a lot faster. The best way to do that is through you. Also, if you are watching on the Polite Society Podcast YouTube or Facebook page, we get those comments immediately. Any comments you make, we can get them on the air, discuss them between Matt and I while we're on the air. If you're anywhere else, I may get your comment. Go ahead and comment. I may get it, I may not. If I don't and you want it on the air, head over to the Polite Society Podcast pages. We'll get those and get them up. Matt, looks like there's one overwhelming news story in the Second Amendment world today, and that is the proposed 28th Amendment by Gavin Newsome, the governor of California. He came out and wants a new amendment, the 28th Amendment to the Constitution, and he wants universal background checks. He wants a 21 minimum age for purchasing firearms of any kind. He wants to ban assault weapons, all in one amendment. Dude, this is just a mess. I'm gonna let you climb into it. Then I'm gonna get to a couple quotes from our folks here at SAF.
Yeah, so I mean, right off the get-go, you watch his news story, and he's talking about assault rifle. He calls it an assault rifle. It's like, don't you know by now? It's Armalite. That's the company that invented it in the 1950s. Of course, assault, ghost, you put those scary terms in front of the word gun or rifle, and what do you got? You got fear and panic and anarchy. Dave Moultrup, my camera guy, and I, we were down in Syracuse for Taste of Syracuse doing some investigative reporting, interviewing and such, and it was very, we had a lot of people, actually the major majority of people were like, yes, Second Amendment, defend yourself. There's a couple loony people there that were like, oh, nobody needs a weapon of war. I'm like, it's all talking points. It is ridiculous. And 21 years old, she said, I was married and had a kid at 16. Well, 15 and 16, married at 16 and 17, right? Not saying that's we goofed around and we got pregnant, but we did the right thing. We've been married almost 32 years now, and we've got 4 kids and 10 grandkids, 10th grandkids up there. So you're telling me that people can't be responsible at a young age, yet you can vote, you can join the military, you can buy a house, you can sign a contract, right? You can get married, drive, you can do all this stuff and be responsible, but he associates it to drinking. Like if you can't drink until you're 21, that means you shouldn't have a gun until you're 21. Come on.
Well, I would love to see them start tying other amendments into, you don't have free speech until you're 21. You don't have a right against illegal search and seizure until you're 21.
Well, they're doing it with red flag ERPO. I explain that in my class. We got to explain it in New York State with the new 18-hour class, and I tell them, I say, all this court order stuff that happened, it's all red flag ERPO. It's bearing false witness. You don't get to face your accuser. You don't get a jury of your peers to decide if you're innocent or guilty. They're doing it in many different fashions, many different ways. And these liberal, typically Democrat areas are pushing the catch and release, I call it, but bail reform is what they call it, right? They're letting people out of jail that are going and killing other people or doing more crimes. I've talked to numerous judges that have not been able to give anybody give them any kind of reprieve or any kind of like, okay, listen, I'm going to go light on you. And they show up with 5 or 6 charges.
Yeah.
Because they've been let out and done more crimes and let out and done more crimes and let out and done more crimes. I think one of the judges I met with for lunch said he had 7. Guy had 7 arrests. Was arrested, let go, arrested, let go. over and over and over and over by the time I got to him. And he was a kid, a juvenile. Nothing he could do. The judge is like, I got to throw the book at him.
Yeah, let me get a couple comments in here going back to the assault rifle. Charlie Cook says AR equals anti-riot. Love that one. And another one from Charlie. Raise your hand if you didn't drink before you were 21. Let me make sure my hands are underneath my seat here because
They're cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Exactly. You know, it's funny you say that. So I'm a beekeeper, and I make propolis tincture. I was outside, and I'll make this quick, but I was outside weed eating yesterday with a mask on, an N95 mask, because, you know, my wife's like, you got to wear a mask. I'm like, fine. So I wear a mask while I'm weed eating. I had to weed eat quick because guests wanted to use the playground. And this morning I woke up with a sore throat. Like, my throat was killing me. And the only thing I could think of, it was the dust in the air, smoke in Canada.
Sure.
So I sprayed some of my propolis tincture on my throat. Throat's fine, healed like that. But so propolis tincture, we use vodka. We use Everclear, 180 proof Everclear. Our daughter, our 24-year-old daughter, our middle daughter, recently told my wife that the Everclear that we had in the cupboard that I used to make my propolis tincture, she would drink it and then replace what she drank with water.
Oh yeah. I gotta say it's been a very long time, but my mom used to make what she called hot toddies, and that involved using Everclear, and I did the same kind of thing. I got caught when I figured one night in my confused status that may or may not have been caused by drinking some of it, that, you know, it might be interesting if I mix, it's the same color, just De Kuyper peach schnapps. Yeah, the taste went through. So that's how I got caught.
So, you know, we got Gavin Newsome wanting to not allow people under 21 to be able to buy a typical AR or any kind of rifle like that. Yet, when it comes to bad guys, they don't want to stop bad guys from people that want to do harm, want to do bad things. They'll have a waiting period for good people, but shouldn't they also ask the bad guys to wait to do bad things? I mean, they got universal background checks in California. How's that work? California is one of the most violent states in the freaking country.
You're absolutely right. The bad guy's not going to be selling you the Jennings out of the trunk of his car and say, well, okay, I'll take the money, but I'll be back in 10 days. That's not going to happen. I want to get to a couple comments from a press release from the Citizens Committee. Alan Gottlieb, just a couple comments here quick. Newsom's announcement claims these are all common sense gun measures, but there's nothing sensible at all in this scheme. This is a thinly disguised effort to repeal the Second Amendment by making it constitutionally allowable to infringe upon and impair the exercise of a fundamental right Americans have enjoyed for more than 230 years. More importantly, he observed, there's nothing in his proposal about holding criminals accountable or protecting the right of self-defense. It's all about restricting the rights of honest citizens. Finishing up, Gottlieb says Gavin Newsom isn't fooling anyone with this deceitful gambit except maybe himself and the national media. The establishment press, I call them the legacy press, and the political far left may lap this up, but the American public isn't that gullible. Here's a guy with ambitions to be president, and what he's proposing would smash a cornerstone in our federal Constitution. For him to say otherwise suggests he's frighteningly delusional. Let's talk about reality, Matt, for just a second. The actual chances of this becoming an amendment to the Constitution are somewhere between 0 and -5.
I totally agree, 1,000%. I mean, he's running for president. That's what he's doing. This is his platform, like you said earlier to me before we came on. And he's looking to pander to get the money from Soros and right. That's what he's doing. He's literally doing this just to try to have these people say, you know what, this is the guy we're going to support and give him all of our billions. It is ridiculous. I mean, if you look at how many states passed constitutional carry / permitless carry, we're at 27 now.
Yep.
27. There's no way that those 27 states, or at least half of those states, which they're going to need at least half of those states to be able to get this to pass. I forget what it is to make make a new constitutional amendment pass. But even if they're going to repeal the Second Amendment, I mean, like that would be the direction that they would want to go. You probably would have better odds in trying to get the Second Amendment repealed, which ain't going to happen either, than he would creating a new amendment that's going to add more restrictions. But
I'm going to propose a constitutional amendment that I think has just as much chance of passing as Newsom's. I hereby propose any elected official of any level that speaks out against the Second Amendment should thereby be denied for the rest of their life holding any public office.
like
that has got just as much chance of passing as Newsom's, and I think mine makes more sense.
I agree, totally. You know, the only amendment that's been repealed is the 18th.
Yep.
The 18th Amendment.
That's
like,
exactly right.
Prohibition. Yeah, let's ban alcohol and stuff.
Well, and no matter what, prohibition has never, ever, ever worked. Banning things never works unless you totally eliminate the supply. And let's see, if they were to repeal the Second Amendment, they were to make it. Let's give them their dream. The Second Amendment is repealed, and everybody magically becomes enamored with this and goes and turns in their firearms. What's going to the criminals are still going to want guns. They're still going to get them from Mexico through the open dam border, through Canada from the open dam border, and anywhere. I mean, the guns are still going to get here. You cannot uninvent the gun.
You know, I think that people in Canada are. I think they're balking against the Canadian government. I think, like, here we say I lost it in a boating accident. I think in Canada they're saying they lost it in a wildfire.
There, yeah. And you're in the area of the country. It's a little bit gray and smoky over there where you're at.
We had here in Syracuse, we had over 400 in the parts per million index. It was literally one of the worst in the area. I don't know why at Syracuse. I guess it just all kind of comes into this area. But it was like 400 and something. It was bad. You walk outside, you smell like a campfire. You look up in the sky. It was dark. It was like Alaska in the winter, or Alaska in the spring, I guess.
All right, let's get a couple comments in here real quick. Big John 410 over on the YouTube side says, when the Constitution was written, both the military and civilians used the same guns. And I brought this up recently. They used the same guns right up to the cannon on the warship, which, oh, by the way, you could also personally own.
You know, what is it? Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I think it's, in some sense, they're going to utilize the ability to ban guns, because ultimately, if they use the scariness of active shooters, active killers, killing people, that's why we got to do it. They're going on the people's heartstrings and never letting a good tragedy go to waste. And on the flip side, they're saying, hey, we can use this to ban guns, and then we can pass whatever we want. And they can't walk up against us. I'm not up for an uprising and another civil war, but that's exactly what the freaking Second Amendment is about. It's to keep our government from turning into a tyranny. And if you got the government that's trying to take the guns away, then that allows them to become a tyranny. If you don't believe we have a tyranny now, which I think we do, then that's exactly what they can do, is a tyranny. I mean, what happened in Auschwitz, right? I mean, you got... Yeah. Let's take all your guns, and then okay, we'll abide. Here's the guns, and then okay, now go to that concentration camp, so we can burn you alive. It's scary.
And let me get another comment up here quick. The amendment will not even come up. The anti-gun crowd will just keep using leftist judges to uphold unconstitutional gun laws. Well, the thing is, you can say what you want about Trump, and I'm not a huge Trump fan. I'm not endorsing anybody in the presidential race coming up. But Trump, when he was president, did give us the current setup we have in the Supreme Court. Until that changes, there's nothing that we're going to keep winning and winning big in Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, I mean he's done the bump stock ban, and he also gave the ATF the ability to do this stuff with the whole pistol brace and such. With I forget what the precedent was, but it's so he's like a Reagan. A lot of people loved Reagan, but Reagan gave us the NFA.
He did, and the reason you cannot buy with a tax stamp a brand new M4 is because of the NFA. The reason there's it's just not NFA. He gave us the what am I trying to say? It's the law that says if you are legal where you stop, you're legal where you finish, you're legal.
Talking about interstate transportation.
Yeah, but it's same law. Yes, my brain is disconnected right now. I'm
in a fog here.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the AR and how many times it's been used in mass shootings, I like to call them active killers.
Yeah.
What they're using, but of course they call them active shooters. But it's less than 1%. Yet they're focusing so much on these guns of war, as they call them. It's so bait and switch. It just boggles my mind, the ignorance of people. And unfortunately, what did you call them? The legacy media?
Yes.
The legacy media is really perpetuating this. They're pushing this along because they are starving to try to make news because they can't keep up with people like us that are out there. I mean, you're driving down the road and there's a car accident. How many people are going to jump out with their cameras and start investigative reporting?
Rather than going over and actually helping out, yes.
Right. So they're competing against that because it's live, on the scene, right now, eyewitness news from my car. And you've got these organizations now just putting out content that isn't even right. Like, they're putting something out and they're like, well, if we're wrong, we'll retract it. Maybe we'll just ignore it. Or if we really have to, we'll settle a lawsuit. Or we'll retract it and give an apology if they do threaten to sue. That's their recourse now. It's not the old days of vet 3 sources, and if all 3 sources match up, then we can run the story. Those days are gone.
I call them the legacy. The legacy media came up, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. 5 years ago, the last time we were in Phoenix for a gun rights policy conference, which Squirrel, we're going back to Phoenix this fall. And there's been a change in venue from where we were the last time. But anyway, we were in Phoenix last time. Alan Gottlieb started calling them legacy media, and I thought that's perfect because it's just like the legacy port on your computer. For those of you who may have built PCs or those of you who bought motherboards, there is what's called a legacy port on that motherboard. It's for really old equipment that nobody uses anymore. Generally, unless you want to spend a lot of good money, they're not available anymore. They're slow. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do, but it's still there. That's the same thing with the legacy media. Nobody really uses it anymore. It's not doing it's not doing the function it was designed to do, and nobody knows why it's still around.
That's spot on. Nail on the head right there.
Let me get comments in again. C&T Designs and Arms, the 1783 Mass Act proves that private citizens had everything to include bombs.
I got my SOT just so that I can have bombs. I just gotta get some. I haven't done it yet. I've had it since December, and I haven't done a damn thing with it.
This long story. We've got one more story I've got to get to today, so we got a little bit of time. But I'm going to say 9 or 10 years old, and we were at my uncle's place, and my uncle asked my cousin, who's 4 years older than me, so he was in his early teens, to round up all the bush out of the backyard and put it into a pile, and then go get a starter out of the garage, meaning gasoline, and light it on fire. Well, we thought, let's just go through the garage. Let's do it better. Let's go through the garage. If it says flammable, we'll put a little bit of it in. And so we put a little bit of gasoline. Then we found some kerosene. We found some spray paint. We just we took the can of spray paint, shook the hell out of it, put it toward this gallon cider container, sprayed it into the cider container with the gasoline, the kerosene, and just anything else in the garage we could find that said flammable. We added a little bit of it in, and then went and put that jar in the center of this pile of twigs, stuffed a rag, lit the rag, and when the rag got to where it was effective, it was a boom. And it wasn't a minor one. It was a woof boom. You don't need a license to make explosives. You just need a license to make the government happy when you make explosives.
So you created your own Canada, eh?
Yes. I mean, very close to a weapon of mass destruction. But I'm fairly certain, that the statute of limitations are all done. So
yeah, that's why you're releasing the cat out of the bag.
Exactly. It's been 45 years. So let's get to this next story. I'm going to just go ahead and read from the press release here. This is off from an SAF press release. Attorneys representing the Second Amendment Foundation and its partners in a federal lawsuit challenging the prohibition of handgun sales to young adults have filed a reply to the federal government's arguments supporting the ban. The case is known as Reese versus ATF. Joining SAF are Louisiana Shooting Association, the Firearms Policy Coalition, and 2 private citizens. I'm going to skip down here a little bit. The document opens with a blockbuster statement. The government's defense of the handgun ban is notable for a conspicuous absence, the lack of any founding era law barring 18 to 20-year-olds from purchasing firearms from any source. To the contrary, shortly after the adoption of the Second Amendment, Congress affirmatively required 18 to 20-year-olds to acquire firearms. The government's modern-day attempt to prohibit 18 to 20-year-olds from purchasing handguns from licensed dealers contradicts the nation's history of firearm regulations and therefore must be invalidated. This is going right after the 1968 Gun Control Act. That's where we get you have to be 21 to buy a handgun. And Matt, this is great. I'm hoping this gets. Fifth Circuit is gun friendly right now. Forget the Supreme Court. Fifth Circuit is gun friendly right now. I'm hoping this carries through quickly.
Yeah, and even if even if they appeal it, if it passes muster in the Fifth Circuit, gets appealed to the Supreme Court. Well, hey, that's good because that means that the Supreme Court's gun friendly right now. That's a plus. And as we know, once it hits the Supreme Court and it becomes the law of the land, all states comply except for the Democratic states like California, New Jersey.
Yeah, and let's face it, this thing doesn't work to start with because gangbangers from 14 years of age and up can go and buy any kind of handgun any kind of handgun available in the black market. There aren't a lot of FN 57s on the black market, from my understanding, because it's an incredibly expensive gun, and people tend to keep hold of those really close. But whatever's available in the back of Guido's truck, or in his trunk, they don't care. They're not waiting till they're 21 when they're gangbangers to go get a handgun.
And they got the community guns, and on top of that, you get the argument that if we just ban the the guns, then that'll stop bad things from happening. No, bad guys will still get guns. Well, we got to get rid of all guns. Well, police and military have guns, and they're the cleanup crew, right? When seconds count, police are only minutes away. That whole mantra.
Yep.
But then you say, okay, well, if we get rid of all the guns, let's just go with that fallacy. We get rid of all the guns, and now what? Do you think they're not going to use pressure cookers and vans like they did in Nice, France, or knives like they're using in Europe? No, they're going to use whatever tool that they need to commit the crime. Hammers, skateboards. Just ask Kyle Rittenhouse, right?
They're going to take a cider jug and go into the garage and find anything that's flammable, mix a little bit of it in there.
Right.
Yeah, it's exactly. You know, when you get rid of guns, you get rid of the equalizer for the 62-year-old grandmother who never was fantastically in shape, but now is getting a little bit of health issues. She's out with the grandkids and stopping at the convenience store on the way to the zoo, and all of a sudden a 19-year-old says, there's a lady with money I'm going to target her. You take away her equalizer. What's she supposed to do?
Sing kumbaya to them.
Yes.
To them. That's what the anti-gunners want. Think it's going to work. I don't think that's the case. I think they ultimately just. At some point, I try to think it's just ignorance, and I can educate them. But then when you try to educate them, their mindset is like, oh, no, nobody needs to have those kind of guns. Okay, tell me how you're planning on getting them out of bad guys' hands. Because they're not going to give them up. They don't abide by the law. It's a fallacy.
There is a good way to get them out of bad guys' hands, though. I'll tell you this right now. Lock them in prison and do not let them out.
Exactly.
One more story I want to get to. This is off jdjournal.com. This is a couple days old, but gun control advocates, including the Giffords Law Center and March for Our Lives, have taken their fight against the firearm industry to law school campuses. They urge law students to sign pledges not to represent gun manufacturers once they become licensed attorneys. Well, while these activists argue that law students can play a crucial role in combating gun violence, critics contend this approach dismisses a constitutionally protected industry and potentially undermines individuals' Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms and the Sixth Amendment right to counsel. I'm going to say this, Matt. Law school students are generally 22 to 25, maybe 26 years old. Matt, do you believe right now everything you said when you were 23 years old?
No, absolutely.
You've changed your mind on a few things? Yep. So they might be able to convince a few young lawyers that have just gotten their license that we don't want to represent these people, but as soon as they're exposed to the real world, I think most attorneys are going to do what the heck they want, no matter what they signed when they were 23, 24 years old. A non-binding, pledge, not a
pledge, right? For sure.
So, all right, man, we are right down towards the bottom of the hour. What's been going on with Meet the Pressers, and is there anything else you want to plug today, man?
Yeah, sure. So I just did Kevin Dixie's Train and Learn down in Missouri, and I taught the Force on Force class there, so that was awesome. I got to partake in some of the training by Zeke Stout and Mari Bassard, so it was really good training. Mike Bauer from the USCCA was there too. He did some training, and it was a great event. We just interviewed and had Zeke and Tony Simon, and Chris Fife or Chris Lyle from South Carolina, all on along with KD. Clint and I did. We just recorded with them yesterday, and that'll be on the show in a couple weeks to talk about the Train and Learn. So yeah, I'm going to be in New York City teaching pepper spray coming up this weekend. Next month I'm going to be in Maryland teaching the use of force UTM instructor course on the 8th and the 9th. Then I'll be in August. I'll be in Michigan helping out with Rick Ector's event, and going out to Washington to visit our daughter and teach a pepper spray class out there, and then back to Montana to teach a taser class all in August. So bouncing all over the place. In September I'll be out in Michigan again teaching Mantis an event, and then I'll be out to the USCC Expo in Wisconsin in September. So it's a busy back next few months.
I have to apologize. I was looking over at comments. I want to add real quick. Are you going to be? I heard you mention Rick Ector. Are you going to be at his event the end of July?
Yes.
Susan and I will be there as well.
Awesome.
And I want to give a shout out really quick. If you are an instructor like Matt and me and my wife Susan, if you're an instructor and you would like to help introduce 1,500 women, which is the goal for this year, to shooting, get yourself to Detroit, Michigan. Romulus is actually the name of the town where we're all getting a hotel. Get to Romulus/Detroit, Michigan. The end of July, I want to say it's the 28th and 29th of July is when the event actually happens. Get to Michigan, help Rick out, and we'd love to see you there, man.
The 29th and 30th, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. I volunteered last year. It was an absolute blast. A lot of my friends are volunteering again this year. We'd love to see you out there. And it's something I absolutely love to do is teach new people to shoot. You'll get everybody there from I've never touched a gun before and I'm terrified of them, all the way up to I've already got my concealed carry license, but if I get a chance to shoot a different gun and somebody else is paying for a magazine of ammunition, I'm doing that. So
I'm looking forward to it. I've never been there, and Rick's been bugging me about it for 2 or 3 years now. And I finally put it in my calendar and said I'm not booking anything else that weekend. And it worked out because we're going to Washington to visit our daughter, and then I got Will Parker wanted me to come out to Montana to teach a taser course in August. So I'm like, well, let's coordinate it. And then Sabre gets a hold of me, and they're like, hey, we got somebody in Washington State that wants a class in August. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like all of it. Just I'm doing 3 trainings from Washington to Montana to Michigan, and we're just going to do a family trip.
Very, very cool. All right, well, we're running a little bit late. We do need to set this one aside. Everybody, thank you for watching. Podcast listeners, thank you for listening, and please do consider joining us live 6 p.m. Monday through Friday on the Polite Society Podcast, Facebook, and YouTube pages. That's it for tonight. Everybody, thanks, and we'll see you next time.